After working side by side for months, she was pregnant by the billionaire CEO. Then the truth. Emily Carter had been staring at the same spreadsheet for 20 minutes before she realized the numbers had stopped making sense. The fluorescent lights in the office buzzed. They always did around 3 in the afternoon, right when the building's HVAC system kicked into overdrive. She blinked hard, refocused and reached for her coffee. Cold. Again. 28 and running on autopilot. That's what her life had become. Every morning started the same way. Alarm at 6:15, shower that never got quite hot enough, the same rotation of work clothes she'd bought on sale at Target 2 years ago. Her apartment in Cambridge sat tucked between a laundromat that smelled like industrial detergent and a corner store that sold lottery tickets and wilted flowers. The radiator clanked when the heat kicked on. The upstairs neighbor played jazz at odd hours. The kitchen faucet dripped no matter how many times she tightened it. She didn't mind any of it. Minding things required energy she didn't have. Emily worked as an administrative assistant at MedTech Innovations, a medical technology company housed in a glass and steel building near Kendall Square. Her job was to keep things moving, schedules organized, documents proofed, problems solved before anyone noticed they existed. She was good at it, maybe too good. People forgot she was there unless they needed something. Emily, can you pull the Q3 reports? Emily, did you confirm the investor meeting? Emily, the printers jammed again. She responded to all of it with the same calm efficiency, the same small smile that never quite reached her eyes. Her co-workers were nice enough. They invited her to happy hours sometimes. She usually said no, not because she didn't want to go, but because she'd learned a long time ago that being pleasant and being close were two different things. Her desk sat in the administrative wing, separated from the executive floor by 2 hallways and a security-coded door. She rarely went up there, didn't need to. Didn't. Most communication happened through email or the occasional phone call from Daniel Whitman's previous assistant before Emily took over coordinating his schedule 6 months ago. Daniel Whitman, CEO, founder, the kind of man whose name appeared in industry newsletters and Boston Business Journal profiles. Emily had seen him in person maybe a dozen times before the project started, always from a distance, always surrounded by people who looked like they belonged in his orbit. Tailored suits, confident handshakes, voices that filled rooms. She'd never spoken directly to him until the day his assistant quit without notice, and HR assigned Emily to cover the gap. Just temporarily, her manager had said, until we find a replacement. That was 4 months ago. The first time Daniel addressed her by name, she'd been so surprised she almost dropped her phone. They were in the conference room on the 8th floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Charles River, the kind of view that cost money Emily couldn't imagine. He'd been reviewing a presentation deck, red pen in hand, coffee going cold in a mug that said, "World's okayest boss." Someone had given it to him as a joke. He'd kept it. "Emily," he'd said, not looking up, "can you pull the revised budget projections? The ones from last Tuesday?" Of course. She'd pulled them up on her tablet within 30 seconds. He glanced at her then, just for a moment. Blue-gray eyes that looked tired even when he smiled. "You're efficient. I try." "No." He set the pen down. "You are." It wasn't a compliment exactly, more like an observation, but something about the way he said it made her chest tighten in a way she didn't understand. That project, a new medical imaging device that could revolutionize diagnostics, consumed the next 3 months. Long hours, late nights, endless revisions. Emily found herself working closer to Daniel than she ever had with anyone in the company, not just coordinating his schedule anymore, but sitting in on strategy meetings, taking notes, tracking action items, occasionally offering input when he asked, and he did ask more than she expected. "What do you think?" he'd said one evening. After a particularly brutal investor call, the office was mostly empty. The cleaning crew had come and gone. Emily was packing up her bag when he appeared in the doorway of the conference room. She looked up, startled. "About the call?" "About the approach. You were listening. You always are." She hesitated. "I think they're focused on short-term returns. But you're building something that matters long-term. That disconnect is going to keep coming up. He studied her for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, that's what I thought too. It was small, barely anything. But Emily felt it, that flicker of being seen as something more than the person who fixed the printer. She started noticing things about him after that. The way he rolled his sleeves up when he was deep in thought. How he always offered to grab coffee for whoever was in the room, even though he was the CEO and nobody expected it. The furrow between his brows when something didn't add up. The scar on his left hand, thin, faded, running from his thumb to his wrist. She never asked about it. He was careful, never inappropriate, never too familiar. But there were moments, brief, fleeting, when she'd catch him watching her. Not in a way that made her uncomfortable, in a way that made her wonder what he was thinking. Like now. Emily glanced up from her laptop to find Daniel standing near her desk, hands in his pockets, expression unreadable. She hadn't heard him approach. He was good at that, moving through spaces without disturbing them. "Hey," when he said. "Hi." She minimized the spreadsheet. "Do you need something?" "Not exactly." He shifted his weight. "I just wanted to check in. You've been putting in a lot of hours lately." "So have you." "Yeah, but I'm supposed to." A half smile. "You're not?" Emily shrugged. "The work needs to get done." "It does, but not at the expense of—" He paused. "I mean, are you good? Honestly?" The question caught her off guard. People didn't usually ask her that, not like they actually wanted the answer. "I'm fine," she said automatically. Daniel didn't move, didn't push, just looked at her like he could see straight through the polite deflection. "Okay," he said finally, "but if you're not, you can say so. You don't have to carry everything alone." Then he walked away, footsteps quiet on the industrial carpet. Emily sat there for a long moment, hands resting on the keyboard, heart doing something strange in her chest. The office was nearly empty now. 5:47 p.m. The sun was setting over the river, casting long shadows through the windows. Somewhere down the hall a door closed. The HVAC hummed. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mom asking if she was coming home for Thanksgiving. She typed a response she didn't mean. Yeah, probably. Then she closed her laptop, grabbed her coat, and headed for the elevator. On the subway ride home, pressed between a guy listening to music too loud and a woman with a stroller, Emily stared at her reflection in the dark window. She looked tired. Hair pulled back in the same low ponytail she always wore, minimal makeup, jacket she'd had since college. Nothing remarkable, nothing special. But Daniel's words kept replaying in her head. You don't have to carry everything alone. She didn't know why that hit so hard. The train lurched. Someone coughed. A baby cried. Emily closed her eyes and counted the stops until Cambridge. Her apartment was dark when she got home. She didn't bother turning on the lights, just dropped her bag by the door, kicked off her shoes, and stood in the kitchen for a minute, listening to the faucet drip. She thought about texting her friend Jess. Didn't. She thought about calling her mom back. Didn't. Instead, she heated up leftover pasta that had been sitting in the fridge for 3 days, ate it standing at the counter, and scrolled through her phone without really seeing anything. At some point, she found herself looking at the company website. Daniel's bio. His photo. Professionally lit. Confident. The kind of picture that made him look untouchable. But she'd seen him different. Sleeves rolled up, coffee stain on his shirt, running a hand through his hair when he was frustrated. Human. Emily set her phone down. The radiator clanked. She realized she'd been holding her breath. The week after that conversation, Emily noticed everything. She noticed how Daniel took his coffee, black, no sugar, in that stupid world's okayest boss mug he refused to replace even though the handle was chipped. She noticed he had a tell when he was stressed. He'd tap his pen against whatever surface was closest. 3 times, always 3. She noticed the way he'd pause before responding to difficult questions, like he was sorting through 10 different answers to find the right one. She noticed, and she hated that she noticed. It was Tuesday morning, grey and cold, the kind of Boston November that made everyone walk faster just to get indoors. Emily had stopped at the Dunkin' on Mass Ave, the one with the broken door that never quite closed all the way, and grabbed her usual medium coffee, cream and sugar, plus a plain bagel she wouldn't finish. The office was already buzzing when she arrived, fluorescent lights too bright, someone's space heater humming in the corner. Her desk looked the same as always, post-it notes in 3 colors. Pens organized by type, a framed photo of her and her mum from 2 Christmases ago, both of them squinting into the sun. She was halfway through her inbox when her phone rang. Internal line. Emily Carter. "Hey." Daniel's voice, rougher than usual, like he hadn't slept. "Can you come up? I need your eyes on something." "Sure. Give me 5. Now would be better." She grabbed her tablet and headed for the elevator. The executive floor always felt different, quieter. The carpet was thicker. Everything smelled like expensive coffee and the kind of air freshener that didn't come from CVS. Daniel's office sat at the far end, corner space with windows on 2 sides. His previous assistant used to complain about how cold it got in winter. The door was open. He was standing at his desk, shirt sleeves rolled up, tie loosened like he'd been wearing it for days. Papers spread everywhere. His laptop screen showed a presentation deck that clearly wasn't finished. "What's going on?" Emily asked from the doorway. He looked up. There were shadows under his eyes. "Investor meeting got moved up. It's Thursday now." "This Thursday?" "Yeah." "That's in 2 days. I'm aware." He rubbed the back of his neck. "I need this deck tightened. The financial projections don't match the narrative, and the timeline slide is a mess. I've been staring at it for an hour, and I can't." He stopped, exhaled. "Can you just look at it? Please?" Emily set her tablet down and moved closer. She could smell his cologne, something subtle, cedar maybe, mixed with coffee and stress. He stepped aside to give her space, but not much. The office suddenly felt smaller. She scanned the presentation. He was right. The story was there, but it wasn't landing. Numbers that should have been front and center were buried on slide 6. The timeline had too much detail in the wrong places. "Okay," she said, "this is fixable." "Yeah? Yeah. But we need to restructure the whole flow. Start with impact, then show the path to get there. Right now you're leading with process, and that's putting people to sleep before you get to the good part." Daniel leaned against the desk, arms crossed, watching her. "Keep going. The financial projections need their own slide. Clean, simple, 3 key numbers they can remember. Everything else goes in the appendix, and this timeline," she gestured at the screen, "cut it in half. They don't care about every milestone. They care about market readiness and ROI." He was quiet for a moment. Then, "How long would it take you to do that?" "Depends. Do you want it done right or done fast?" "Both." She glanced at him. He wasn't smiling, but there was something in his expression. Relief, maybe. Trust. "I can have a draft by tonight," she said, "but I'll need access to the full financial models." "Done. I'll send you everything." He pushed off the desk, suddenly closer than he'd been a second ago. "Thank you, seriously. It's my job and—" "No." He shook his head. "Your job is to manage my calendar and answer emails. This is—" He paused. "This is you bailing me out." Emily felt heat creep up her neck. She looked away, focused on the presentation instead of whatever was happening in her chest. "I'll get started." "Emily?" She looked back. "I mean it," he said quietly. "Thank you." The moment stretched. Neither of them moved. Outside, a siren wailed. Someone laughed in the hallway. Then Daniel's phone buzzed on the desk, shattering whatever that was, and Emily grabbed her tablet like it was a lifeline. "I'll email you the draft," she said, already heading for the door. She didn't wait for a response. By 7 p.m., the office was nearly empty. Emily's eyes burned from staring at her screen. She'd reworked the entire presentation, restructured the narrative, color-coded the financial slides, and built 3 different versions of the timeline until she found one that actually worked. Her coffee had gone cold hours ago. Her bagel sat untouched in its paper bag. Her shoulders ached. But the deck was good. Really good. She sent it to Daniel with a brief email. First draft attached. LMK if you want changes. His response came back in under a minute. "You're still here." She frowned at her screen, then noticed the timestamp on his email, Sent from his office, he was still here too. Before she could talk herself out of it, Emily stood up, smoothed her wrinkled shirt, and walked to the elevator. The executive floor was dark except for one office at the end of the hall. Light spilled out into the corridor. She could hear music, something instrumental, barely audible. She knocked on the doorframe. Daniel looked up from his laptop. For a second, he just stared at her like he couldn't quite believe she was real. "Hey," she said. "Hey." He closed the laptop. "You didn't have to come up here." "I know, I just—" She stepped inside. "Wanted to make sure you got the file." "I did." "I've been going through it." He gestured at the screen. "It's perfect, you know that, right? It's exactly what it needed to be." Emily felt something warm and uncomfortable settle in her chest. "I'm glad it works." "Works? Emily, you rebuilt the entire thing in—" He glanced at his watch. 6 hours. Most people couldn't do this in a week. She shrugged, suddenly self-conscious. "I just moved some stuff around." "No, you fixed it. There's a difference." He stood up, moved around the desk. "Why are you still here?" "Why are you?" "Touché." A tired smile. "I don't have a good answer for that." "Me neither." They stood there in the dim office, the city lights glowing through the windows behind him. Somewhere in the building, the heating system kicked on with a low rumble. Emily became aware of how quiet it was, how alone they were. "You want coffee?" Daniel asked suddenly. "I was about to make a fresh pot. The good stuff, not the break room garbage." She should say no. Should grab her coat and go home. Should maintain the professional distance that was already blurring at the edges. "Sure," she heard herself say. His office had a small side area with a counter, a sink, and an espresso machine that looked like it cost more than Emily's rent. He moved around the space with easy familiarity, measuring coffee, adjusting settings, the machine hissing to life. "You take cream, right?" he asked without turning around. She blinked. "Yeah. How'd you know that?" "I pay attention." Something in the way he said it made her pulse quicken. He handed her a mug, ceramic, warm against her palms. She took a sip. It was perfect. Not too hot, not too bitter. "Better than Dunkin'?" he asked. "I'm not answering that. It feels like a trap." He laughed, actually laughed. The sound surprised her. They sat down, him in his desk chair, her in one of the leather chairs across from him. Less formal than it should have been, more comfortable than it had any right to be. "Can I ask you something?" Daniel said after a moment. "Okay. Why do you do this? Drink coffee? Work here? Put in these hours? Care this much about something that's technically not your responsibility?" Emily traced the rim of her mug with her thumb. Nobody had ever asked her that before. "I don't know. I guess I like being good at things. And this, she gestured vaguely. "This matters. What you're building matters. So if I can help, why wouldn't I? Most people wouldn't. Maybe, but I'm not most people." He looked at her then, really looked at her, and Emily felt the air shift, like something unspoken had just settled between them. "No," he said quietly. "You're not." Her throat went dry. She took another sip of coffee just to have something to do. "What about you?" she asked, deflecting. "Why do you do this? You could have sold the company by now, retired, done literally anything else." Daniel leaned back in his chair. "Because I'm stubborn, and because—" He paused. "Because I think we can actually change things, not in some abstract way, in a real, tangible way that saves lives. And if I walk away now, that doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen the right way. That's a lot of pressure." "Yeah." He rubbed his eyes. "Some days it feels like too much. But you keep going." "But I keep going." He looked at her again. "Easier with people like you around, though." Emily's heart did that thing again, that stupid, inconvenient thing she'd been trying to ignore for weeks. She set her mug down. "I should go, it's late." "Right, yeah." He stood when she did, walked her to the door. "Thank you, again, for all of this. Anytime." She meant it. In the elevator, alone, Emily leaned against the mirrored wall and closed her eyes. Her reflection stared back at her, tired, rumpled mascara smudged. She looked like someone who'd been working too hard and thinking too much. The lobby was empty, except for the night security guard, who nodded at her as she passed. Outside, the air was sharp and cold, biting through her jacket. The streets were quieter than usual. A bus rumbled past. A couple argued in Spanish outside the bodega on the corner. Emily walked to the tea station, swiped her Charlie card, and waited on the platform. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Get home safe." She stared at the message for longer than necessary, then typed back, "Will do." The train came. She got on, found a seat by the window, and the whole ride home she couldn't stop thinking about the way he'd said her name, like it meant something. The radiator was clanking when she got home. She didn't even bother turning on the lights. The investor meeting went better than anyone expected. Daniel delivered the presentation with the kind of confidence that made people forget to check their phones. The numbers landed. The vision clicked. By the time he wrapped up, 2 of the investors were already nodding, and the third, a guy from a venture capital firm in San Francisco, was asking about timeline to scale. Emily watched from the back of the room, tablet in hand, taking notes nobody asked her to take. She'd been doing that more lately, staying close, making herself useful in ways that weren't technically part of her job description. When it was over, Daniel caught her eye across the conference room. Didn't smile exactly. Just this look that said we did it without saying anything at all. Afterward, there was the usual chaos. Handshakes, business cards, someone suggesting drinks at the hotel bar downtown. Daniel handled it all with practiced ease, but Emily could see the exhaustion starting to creep in around his eyes. She was packing up her things when he appeared beside her. "You coming?" he asked, voice low enough that only she could hear. "To drinks?" "Yeah, you should. You earned it." Emily hesitated. The rest of the team was already heading out. Mark from finance, Susan from product development, a couple of the engineers. Going felt like crossing some invisible line she'd been carefully avoiding. "I don't know," she said. "I've got a lot to catch up on." "Emily," he tilted his head slightly. "Come on, 1 drink. Then you can go home and ignore your inbox like a normal person." She looked at him, at the way his tie was slightly crooked, the faint coffee stain on his cuff he probably hadn't noticed, the careful distance he always maintained even when he was asking her to stay. "1 drink," she said. "1 drink." The bar was one of those hotel places that tried too hard. Leather booths, dim lighting, cocktails with names like The Gatsby and Midnight in Paris. A pianist played jazz standards in the corner, just loud enough to fill the silence without drowning out conversation. The group claimed a large table near the windows. Emily ended up between Susan and one of the engineers whose name she always forgot. Daniel sat across from her, tie loosened, jacket draped over the back of his chair. Everyone ordered. Whiskey for the finance guys, wine for Susan. The engineer got an IPA that came in a glass the size of his head. "What do you want?" the server asked Emily. She glanced at the menu. Everything was $14 and had 3 ingredients she couldn't pronounce. "Just a vodka soda, lime." "Make it 2, Daniel said. Everyone laughed. Someone made a joke about CEOs and their assistants having the same taste. Emily felt her face heat up but kept her expression neutral. Daniel didn't react at all, just leaned back in his seat like he hadn't heard it. The conversation moved on. War stories from previous companies, horror stories about bad investors. Someone brought up a conference in Austin next month. Emily mostly listened, sipping her drink, watching the way people performed for each other. Daniel was good at this part. Knew when to laugh, when to ask questions, when to let someone else hold the floor. But every so often, his gaze would drift across the table, landing on her for just a second before moving away. She felt every single one of those looks. An hour in, people started peeling off. Susan had an early flight. The engineers wanted to hit another bar in Somerville. Mark's wife was texting him increasingly aggressive messages about picking up their kid from soccer practice. Eventually, it was just Emily and Daniel. The bar had gotten louder. A group of guys in suits were doing shots near the entrance. The pianist had switched to something upbeat. The server came by to ask if they wanted another round. "I'm good," Emily said. Daniel glanced at her half-finished drink. Yeah, me too. They sat there for a moment, not talking, just existing in the same space. You did good today, he said finally. That presentation, none of that happens without you. You're the one who pitched it. Yeah, but you're the one who made it make sense. He rotated his glass on the table. I don't say that enough. Thank you. You say it plenty. No, I don't. He looked at her directly. You make everything run. You anticipate things I didn't even know needed handling. And He stopped, started again. I don't take that for granted. I hope you know that. Emily's throat tightened. She didn't know what to say, didn't trust herself to say anything. I should go, she managed. Right. Yeah. He signaled for the check. I'll grab this. You don't have to. Emily, I'm getting the check. She didn't argue. Outside, the air was cold enough to sting. The street was busy. Cars honking, people streaming out of restaurants, a guy on the corner selling roses from a bucket. The city had that Friday night energy, everyone desperate to forget the week they'd just survived. You need a cab? Daniel asked. I'm taking the T-Red lines right there. I'll walk you. You don't have to do that. I know. He started walking anyway. They fell into step beside each other. Emily shoved her hands in her jacket pockets. Daniel kept a careful distance, just close enough to feel intentional. Can I ask you something? She said after a block. Sure. Do you ever get tired of it? The work, the pressure, all of it. He thought about it. Sometimes. Yeah. But tired isn't the same as done, you know? I'm tired most days, but I'm not done. What keeps you going? Honestly? He glanced at her. Knowing it matters. And, he paused, having people around who give a shit. That helps. They reached the tea station. The entrance was crowded. Someone was playing guitar badly. A woman argued with the Charlie card machine. Emily stopped at the top of the stairs. Thanks for walking me. Any time. Neither of them moved. The moment stretched. People pushed past them. A train rumbled below. Someone shouted something in the distance. Emily. Daniel's voice was quieter now, different. I don't want to... He ran a hand through his hair. I'm trying to do this right. Do what right? This, whatever this is. He gestured vaguely between them. I'm your boss. There's a line, and I'm trying really hard not to cross it. But you make that... He stopped, exhaled. You make that really difficult. Her heart was pounding. I don't know what you want me to say. I don't either. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I just needed you to know that I'm aware of... Another pause. Of you. Emily couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Every rational part of her brain was screaming to walk away, to go home, to pretend this conversation never happened. But she didn't move. I should go, she said again, weaker this time. Yeah. He took a step back, hands in his pockets. You should. But he didn't look away. Emily turned and headed down the stairs. Her legs felt unsteady. Her hands were shaking. On the platform, waiting for the train, she realized she'd been holding her breath. The ride home was a blur. She stared at her reflection in the dark window, replaying the conversation, trying to figure out what it meant, what she wanted it to mean. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. Sorry if I made things weird. She stared at it. Typed and deleted 3 different responses. Finally settled on, you didn't. Another buzz almost immediately. Good. See you Monday. Emily put her phone away. The train lurched forward. She closed her eyes. The weekend passed in slow motion. Saturday morning she did laundry in the basement of her building. The machines were ancient. One of the dryers didn't work, the fluorescent lights flickered. She sat on a folding chair and scrolled through her phone without really seeing anything. She thought about texting Jess. Didn't. She thought about calling her mom. Didn't. Instead, she walked to the Trader Joe's on Mem Drive, bought groceries she didn't need, and walked back through the cold. Her apartment felt smaller than usual. The radiator was clanking again. The upstairs neighbor was having people over. She could hear footsteps, laughter, music bleeding through the ceiling. Emily stood in her kitchen, staring at the dripping faucet, and admitted the truth she'd been avoiding. She felt something for Daniel. Not just attraction, something deeper, more complicated. And she had no idea what to do about it. Sunday evening, she found herself at a wine bar in Harvard Square. Jess had finally convinced her to come out. The place was packed, too loud, too warm. Everyone seemed younger than Emily felt. "So, what's going on with you?" Jess asked, halfway through her second glass of Pinot. "You've been weird all week." "I haven't been weird. You've totally been weird. You're doing that thing where you smile but you're not actually listening." Emily sighed. "It's just work stuff." "Work stuff?" Jess raised an eyebrow. "That's code for something." "It's not code, it's just—" She paused. "Complicated." "Complicated how?" Emily didn't know how to explain it, didn't know if she should. "I think I'm getting too involved. In things I shouldn't be involved in." Jess leaned forward. "Are you talking about a person?" "Oh my God, you're talking about a person." "I'm not—" "You totally are. Who is it?" "Nobody. It's nothing." "Emily." Jess's voice softened. "Come on, talk to me." But Emily couldn't, because saying it out loud would make it real, and she wasn't ready for it to be real. "It's nothing," she repeated. "I'm just tired." Jess didn't believe her. Emily could tell, but she dropped it anyway. They finished their drinks, talked about other things, Jess's promotion, her boyfriend who still hadn't proposed, plans for Thanksgiving, normal things, safe things. When Emily got home, her phone was full of work emails she hadn't checked all weekend. One from Daniel, sent late Saturday night. "Quick question about the December budget review. Can we push it to the 15th instead of the 8th? Let me know. Professional. Distant." Like Friday night hadn't happened. She typed back, "Works for me. I'll update the calendar." His response came 5 minutes later. "Thanks, hope you had a good weekend." Emily stared at the message, didn't respond. Monday morning came too fast. She got to the office early. Coffee from Dunkin', same broken door, same medium with cream and sugar. The elevator smelled like someone's cologne. The lights on her floor were already on. Her desk looked exactly the same. Post-its, pens, the photo of her and her mum. Everything normal, except nothing felt normal anymore. She was halfway through her morning emails when Daniel appeared. Dark suit, white shirt, no tie yet, coffee in that chipped mug. "Morning," he said. "Morning. Got a minute?" Her stomach dropped. "Sure." She followed him to his office. He closed the door behind them, didn't sit, just stood there, looking uncomfortable in a way she'd never seen before. "Listen," he started, "about Friday." "It's fine," she cut him off. "We don't have to." "No, we do." He exhaled. "I shouldn't have said what I said. It was inappropriate. You work for me and I put you in a position that wasn't fair." Emily's chest tightened. "You didn't—" "I did, and I'm sorry. It won't happen again." The words landed like stones. "Okay," she said quietly. "Okay." Silence. Then Daniel ran a hand through his hair. He stopped. Started again. "I need you to know that I respect you, your work, your—" He gestured vaguely. "Everything, and I don't want to mess that up by being—" Another pause. "By being unclear about boundaries." "I understand." "Good," he nodded. "Good." But neither of them moved. The moment stretched. Outside, someone laughed. A phone rang. "Is that all?" Emily asked. "Yeah, that's all." She turned to leave. "Emily." She stopped, didn't turn around. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "I meant what I said. About being aware of you. That part wasn't—" He didn't finish. She didn't ask him to. Emily walked back to her desk, sat down, stared at her screen without seeing it. Her hands were shaking. The radiator in the corner hissed. She counted to 10. He didn't come back. 3 weeks passed in careful silence. Emily and Daniel existed in the same space like two magnets reversed, always aware, never touching. He was professional. She was efficient. They communicated through emails and brief hallway conversations that never lasted longer than necessary. It was exhausting. The office holiday party was scheduled for Friday night, one of those mandatory fun events that nobody actually wanted to attend, but everyone showed up to anyway. The company had rented out a restaurant in the seaport, one of those trendy places with exposed brick and Edison bulbs hanging from the ceiling, open bar, catered food, a DJ who looked barely old enough to drink. Emily almost didn't go. She'd bought a dress specifically for this. Nothing fancy, just a simple black thing from Macy's that fit well enough. She'd done her makeup carefully, worn her hair down for once instead of pulled back, heels that were going to kill her feet by the end of the night. She felt ridiculous. The restaurant was already packed when she arrived. Everyone from the company seemed to be there, plus significant others, plus a few clients someone had invited. The music was too loud. The lighting was too dim. People were already drunk. Emily grabbed a glass of wine from the bar and found a corner to occupy. She spotted Daniel almost immediately. Hard not to. He was near the windows talking to a group of investors, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Dark suit, white shirt, no tie. Hair slightly messy like he'd been running his hands through it. Their eyes met across the room. He looked away first. Emily took a long drink of wine. "You look nice." She turned. Mark from finance, red-faced and grinning, beer in hand. "Thanks," she said. "You should dress up more often. You know, at work." Emily forced a smile. "I'll keep that in mind." He lingered for a moment, like he wanted to say something else, then wandered off toward the appetizer table. She was debating how early she could leave without it being obvious when Susan appeared at her elbow. "Having fun?" Susan asked, voice dripping with sarcasm. "So much fun." Liar. Susan took a sip of her martini. "These things are torture, but at least the food's decent." They stood together, watching the crowd. Someone from HR was attempting to dance. The DJ switched to something with a heavy bass line that made the floor vibrate. "You and Daniel have been weird lately," Susan said casually. Emily's stomach dropped. "What?" "I don't know, just different, like you're avoiding each other or something." "We're not avoiding each other." "Okay." Susan didn't sound convinced. "If you say so." Emily finished her wine. "I need another drink." At the bar, she ordered a vodka soda instead. Something stronger. The bartender made it heavy-handed. She could taste it immediately. She was halfway through it when Daniel appeared beside her. "Hey," he said, "hey." They stood there, not looking at each other, both facing forward like they were waiting for something. "How you look—" He stopped, started again. "That's a nice dress." "Thanks." Silence. The music changed. Something slower. People were pairing off, attempting to dance, despite the fact that nobody knew how. "Do you want to—" Daniel gestured vaguely toward the crowd. "I mean, we probably should, for appearances." Emily's heart was pounding. "You want to dance?" "I don't want to. But it might look weird if we don't, since everyone's—" He trailed off. She knew what he meant. Optics, performance, the careful game they'd been playing for weeks. "Okay," she said. They moved to the edge of the dance floor, not the center, never the center. Daniel's hand settled at her waist, careful, barely there. Emily placed her hand on his shoulder. There was space between them. Intentional space. But she could still feel him, the warmth, the tension, the way his jaw was tight like he was concentrating too hard. "Relax," she said quietly. "People are watching." "I know." But he didn't relax. They swayed awkwardly. Neither of them knew what they were doing. The song seemed to last forever. "This is weird," Daniel muttered. "Yeah. Sorry. Don't be." His hand shifted slightly at her waist, just a fraction. But Emily felt it everywhere. She looked up. Their faces were closer than she'd realized. She could see the flecks of gray in his eyes, the stubble he'd missed shaving, the tiny scar near his temple she'd never noticed before. "Emily," he started. The song ended. The DJ transitioned into something upbeat. People cheered. The moment shattered. They stepped apart. "I need some air," Emily said. She didn't wait for a response. Outside, the December air was sharp enough to hurt. The seaport at night was all glass and concrete, the harbour dark beyond the buildings. Emily's breath came out in clouds. Her hands were shaking, but she couldn't tell if it was from cold or something else. She heard the door open behind her. "You can't just walk away like that," Daniel said. "I needed air." "Bullshit." He moved closer. Not touching, just close. "What are we doing, Emily?" "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do." His voice was rough, frustrated. "We're dancing around this, pretending it's not happening, and I can't—" He exhaled hard. "I can't keep doing this." "Daniel, no. Listen." He ran a hand through his hair. "I know all the reasons this is a bad idea. I've listed them multiple times. You work for me. There's a power dynamic. It's unprofessional. It could mess everything up. I know." Emily's heart was hammering. "So why are you out here?" "Because none of that matters when I'm around you." He looked at her directly. "Because I think about you constantly. Because I—" He stopped. "Because I can't keep pretending I don't." The words hung between them. Emily couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Every rational thought she'd had for the past month was screaming at her to walk away. "Say something," Daniel said quietly. "I don't know what you want me to say." "The truth. Whatever it is." She looked at him, at the way he was standing like he was braced for rejection, at the vulnerability in his expression that she'd never seen before. "I feel it too," she whispered. Something shifted in his eyes. Relief, fear, both at once. "This could really mess things up," he said. "I know. I don't want to hurt you or put you in a position where—" "Daniel." She took a step closer. "I know the risks." "Do you?" "Yes." He searched her face, looking for doubt, for hesitation. She didn't give him any. "Okay," he said finally. "Okay." Neither of them moved. Then Daniel reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away. His hand curved against her jaw, careful, tentative. "Tell me to stop," he said. She didn't. Their foreheads touched first, breathing the same air. Emily's eyes closed. Every nerve in her body was hyper-aware. The cold, the sound of traffic in the distance, the warmth of his hand against her face. When he finally kissed her, it was gentle, questioning, like he was still waiting for her to change her mind. She didn't. Emily's hands found his jacket, holding on, grounding herself. The kiss deepened, still careful, still controlled, but charged with everything they'd been holding back for months. When they finally pulled apart, they were both breathing hard. "We should go somewhere," Daniel said, voice rougher now. "Not here. Somewhere we can—" He didn't finish. "My place is closer," Emily heard herself say. The cab ride felt endless. They sat on opposite sides of the back seat, not touching, not talking. The driver had sports radio on. The city slid past the windows in streaks of light. Emily's mind was racing. This was happening. This was actually happening. Part of her wanted to tell the driver to turn around, the rational part, the part that understood consequences. But the rest of her just wanted to get there faster. Her apartment looked smaller with him in it, more cramped. The radiator was clanking, dishes in the sink, laundry folded on the couch, all the small imperfections of her life suddenly visible. "Sorry, it's a mess," she started. "Emily." Daniel closed the distance between them. "I don't care." He kissed her again, less gentle this time, more urgent, like 3 weeks of restraint had finally broken. They stumbled toward the bedroom, hands fumbling with buttons and zippers, clothes hitting the floor. The bed was unmade, sheets twisted, pillows askew. Neither of them cared. There was hesitation still. Pauses where they looked at each other like they were making sure this was real, that they both wanted this. "You okay?" Daniel asked at one point, voice low. "Yeah." Emily's hands were shaking. "Yeah, I'm okay. We can stop, if you want. We don't have to—" "I don't want to stop." What followed was careful and intense, an exploration of each other that felt both new and inevitable. Daniel was attentive in ways that surprised her, patient, checking in, reading her responses. Emily let herself get lost in it, in him, in the feeling of being wanted so completely. After they lay tangled in sheets, breathing hard, the room quiet except for the radiator's persistent clanking. Daniel's arm was around her. Emily's head rested on his chest. She could hear his heartbeat slowing down. "That just happened," she said into the darkness. "Yeah. We probably shouldn't have done that." "Probably not." He pressed a kiss to the top of her head. "You regretting it?" "No." She traced patterns on his skin. "You?" "Not even a little." They were quiet for a while. Outside someone was yelling. A car alarm went off and stopped. The city sounds of a Friday night. "What happens now?" Emily asked. "I don't know." He tightened his hold on her slightly. "But we'll figure it out." She wanted to believe that. Wanted to believe this wasn't just going to explode in both their faces. "Stay tonight," she said. "Please." "I was planning on it." Emily closed her eyes, felt herself starting to drift. The last thing she remembered was Daniel's voice, quiet in the dark. "You're not alone in this. Whatever happens, you're not alone." Emily woke to sunlight streaming through the window and the space beside her empty. For a moment panic seized her. He left. Of course he left. What did she expect? Then she heard sounds from the kitchen, the coffee maker gurgling, cabinets opening and closing. She grabbed a shirt, his shirt, she realized, and padded out. Daniel was standing at her counter in his dress pants and nothing else, attempting to work her ancient coffee maker. His hair was a mess. There was a hickey on his shoulder she didn't remember giving him. He looked up when she entered. "Morning." "Morning." She leaned against the doorway. "You're making coffee?" "Trying to." "I don't think this thing works. You have to jiggle the filter and hit it on the side." He did. The machine sputtered to life. "That's ridiculous. That's cheap appliances." He turned to face her fully, smiled, a real smile. "You're wearing my shirt." "I can take it off." "Please don't." They stood there, morning light, coffee brewing, everything different now. "So," Emily said, "what do we do?" Daniel crossed to her, hands on her waist. "Well, first, I'm taking you to breakfast. Then, we figure out the rest. What if there is no good way to figure it out? Then we improvise." He kissed her forehead. "I'm good at improvising." Emily wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe this wasn't going to crash and burn. But standing there in her cramped kitchen, wearing his shirt, she decided to let herself have this. Just for now. Just for a little while. The consequences could wait until Monday. The coffee finished brewing with a final sputter. Neither of them moved to pour it. 3 months later, Emily was throwing up in the office bathroom for the third time that week. She knelt on the cold tile floor, forehead pressed against her arm, trying to steady her breathing. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Someone's perfume lingered in the air, making her stomach turn again. This wasn't food poisoning, wasn't the flu, wasn't stress. She knew what it was. She'd known for 2 weeks, since she'd taken the test alone in her bathroom at 2 in the morning, hands shaking so hard she could barely read the result. Then she'd taken another one. And another. All positive. All undeniable. She was pregnant. Emily stood up slowly, gripping the sink. Her reflection looked back at her, pale, exhausted, terrified. She rinsed her mouth, splashed cold water on her face, tried to pull herself together. Outside the bathroom, the office hummed with its usual rhythm, keyboards clicking, phones ringing, someone laughing at something down the hall. Normal. Everything was normal. Except nothing was normal anymore. Her relationship with Daniel had been careful, secret. They'd been navigating it like a minefield. No public displays, no slip-ups, nothing that would raise questions. At work, they were professional. After hours, they were something else entirely. It had been working. Sort of. Until now. Emily walked back to her desk on unsteady legs. She had 17 unread emails, a meeting in 20 minutes, a presentation to finalize, but all she could think about was the pregnancy test hidden at the bottom of her bathroom trash can. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "Lunch today? That Thai place you like?" She stared at the message. They usually grabbed lunch together once or twice a week, always somewhere outside the office, always careful. She typed back, "Can't today. Swamped." His response came quickly. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just busy." She set her phone face down on her desk, couldn't look at it. Emily made it through the day on autopilot, answered emails, attended meetings, smiled when appropriate. Nobody seemed to notice she was falling apart, except Daniel. He cornered her in the copy room at 4:30, closing the door behind him. "What's going on, he asked. "Nothing, I told you, I'm just busy." "Emily." His voice was gentle but firm. "You've been avoiding me for 3 days, and you look—" He stopped. "Are you sick?" "I'm fine." "You're not fine, talk to me." She couldn't. Not here. Not like this. "Daniel, I really can't do this right now." "Then when?" "I don't know." He studied her face. She could see him trying to figure it out, trying to understand what had shifted. "Did I do something?" he asked quietly. "No, God, no, it's not—" She exhaled hard. "It's not you." "Then what is it?" Emily felt tears threatening. She blinked them back. "I need to go." She left before he could stop her. That night, Emily sat on her couch in the dark, staring at nothing. The radiator clanked. The upstairs neighbor was watching TV too loud. Her phone kept buzzing with texts she wasn't reading. She had to tell him, she knew that. But the words wouldn't form. How do you tell someone that everything is about to change? That the careful thing you've been building is about to get exponentially more complicated? Around midnight, there was a knock on her door. She knew who it was before she opened it. Daniel stood in the hallway, still in his work clothes, looking worried and exhausted. "You weren't answering your phone," he said. "I know." "Can I come in?" She stepped aside. He walked past her into the apartment, took in the scene, her on the couch, lights off, tissues on the coffee table. "Emily, what's going on? And don't say nothing. Please." She closed the door, leaned against it. The words were stuck in her throat. "Are you breaking up with me?" Daniel asked. "Is that what this is?" "No." "Then what?" She couldn't look at him, couldn't meet his eyes. "I'm pregnant." The silence that followed was deafening. Emily forced herself to look up. Daniel was standing completely still. His face had gone blank. Not angry, not upset, just processing. "Say something," she whispered. He sat down heavily on the couch, ran both hands through his hair. "How long have you known?" 2 weeks. 2 weeks. He looked at her. "And you didn't tell me." "I didn't know how." "By saying the words, Emily, that's how." His voice cracked slightly. "Jesus." She moved closer, sat down on the edge of the coffee table facing him. "I know this isn't what we planned. I know this complicates everything, and if you need time to—" "Time to what?" He looked up sharply. "You think I'm going to walk away?" "I don't know, maybe this is—" She gestured helplessly. "This is a lot." "Yeah, it is." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "But I'm not going anywhere." "Daniel, no, listen." He reached for her hands, held them. "This is terrifying and complicated and probably the worst timing possible, but I'm not leaving you to deal with this alone. That's not who I am." Tears spilled over. She couldn't stop them. "I'm scared." "I know, me too." He pulled her closer. "But we'll figure it out, okay? We'll figure it out." Emily let herself lean into him, let herself believe just for a moment that maybe this wouldn't destroy everything. They sat there for a long time, not talking, just holding on. Finally, Daniel pulled back enough to look at her. "What do you want to do?" "I want to keep it." The words came out stronger than she expected. "I know that's complicated and probably stupid, but It's not stupid." He brushed her hair back from her face. "If that's what you want, then we make it work." "Just like that?" "Just like that." She searched his expression, looking for doubt, for fear. She found both. But also something else. Determination, commitment. "What about work?" she asked. "People are going to find out eventually. There are going to be questions. HR is going to have a field day. Then we deal with it. We tell them the truth, that we're together, that this is happening, and we figure out how to make it work professionally. They might want me to quit. Then they can want all they want. You're good at your job. You've earned your place there. This doesn't change that. He squeezed her hands. And if it comes to it, I'll step back. Bring in a COO or something. Create separation. You can't do that. I can if I need to. Emily shook her head. Daniel, this is your company. You built it. I'm not letting you... This isn't about the company. His voice was firm. This is about us, about you, about... He glanced at her stomach. About our kid, that matters more. The words settled between them. Our kid, making it real, making it tangible. I don't know how to do this, Emily admitted. Neither do I, but we'll learn. He managed a small smile. I'm pretty good at figuring things out. Despite everything, she almost laughed. You're such an asshole. Yeah, but I'm your asshole now. That's not romantic. I'm working on it. This time she did laugh, brief and watery, but real. Over the next few weeks, they started making plans. Doctor appointments, telling close friends. Slowly adjusting to the reality, Emily was 12 weeks along when they finally told HR. The meeting was exactly as awkward as she'd anticipated. The HR director, a woman named Patricia with severe glasses and an even more severe expression, listened without interrupting as Daniel explained the situation. So you've been in a relationship for approximately 3 months, Patricia said, pen poised over her notepad, and you're now expecting a child together. Yes, Daniel confirmed, and Ms. Carter reports directly to you. She does, which is why we're here. We want to handle this appropriately. Patricia looked at Emily. Did you feel pressured into this relationship in any way? No, Emily said firmly. Absolutely not. And you're aware of the potential complications this creates professionally? Yes. Patricia made some notes. We'll need to restructure the reporting relationship. Ms. Carter, you'll need to report to someone other than Mr. Whitman going forward. Probably Mark in finance, since he's next in the leadership chain. That's fine, Emily said. And I assume you'll want to take maternity leave when the time comes. Yes. We can discuss specifics closer to your due date. Patricia set her pen down. In the meantime, I need both of you to understand that this will be subject to internal scrutiny. There will be questions, possibly some gossip. The best way to handle it is to be professional and transparent. Understood, Daniel said. Patricia looked between them. For what it's worth, I appreciate you coming forward. It shows integrity. Many people in your position would try to hide it. After the meeting, Emily and Daniel walked back to their floor in silence. When they reached her desk, he stopped. That went better than I expected, he said quietly. Yeah. You okay? Ask me again in a few hours. He wanted to touch her, she could tell, but they were at work, in full view. So he just nodded and walked away. Emily sat down at her desk, opened her email, tried to focus. Within an hour, the news had spread. She could feel it in the sideways glances, the whispered conversations that stopped when she walked by, the carefully neutral expressions. Susan appeared at her desk around 3. So, Susan said, apparently you have news. Emily braced herself. Yeah. You and Daniel. Me and Daniel. Susan pulled up a chair, lowered her voice. For what it's worth, I think it's great. You two make sense, and anyone with eyes could see there was something there. Really? Really? You think you were being subtle? Susan smiled. Emily, the man looks at you like you invented coffee. Despite everything, Emily felt warmth spread through her chest. Thanks. When are you due? July. Summer, baby. Nice. Susan stood up. Listen, people are going to talk. Let them. You're good at your job. You earned your place here. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. Emily nodded, throat tight. I won't. After Susan left, Emily stared at her screen for a long moment. Then she pulled out her phone and texted Daniel. People know his response. Let them. We're good, she typed back. Yeah, we're good. And for the first time in weeks, she actually believed it. That evening, Daniel came over with takeout from the Thai place she liked. They ate on her couch, the TV on, but neither of them really watching it. I've been thinking, Daniel said. setting his container aside. About logistics. Okay. Your apartment is too small, for all of us, I mean, and mine isn't much better. What are you saying? I'm saying we should probably think about moving. Together, somewhere with more space, maybe a house, something with a yard. Emily set her food down. Daniel, that's a lot, I know, but we're having a kid. We should probably live together, don't you think? I mean, yeah, eventually. But we've only been together for a few months. 3 months. Almost 4. He turned to face her. And I'm not asking because of the baby. I'm asking because I want to, because I... He paused. Because I love you. The words hung in the air. Emily stared at him. What? I love you. He said it again, calmer this time. I probably have for a while. I just didn't know how to say it, but I'm saying it now. Her eyes filled with tears. Again. She'd been crying so much lately. You can't just drop that on me. Why not? Because I... She stopped, took a breath. Because I love you too, and that's terrifying. He smiled, actually smiled. Yeah, it kind of is. He kissed her, soft and careful, like they had all the time in the world. When they pulled apart, Emily rested her forehead against his. We're really doing this. Yeah, we really are. Outside, someone honked. The radiator clanked. The world kept moving. But in her cramped apartment, with Daniel's arms around her and everything uncertain and terrifying and perfect all at once, Emily felt something she hadn't felt in a long time. Hope. The TV flickered. Neither of them moved. 15 months later. Emily stood in the kitchen of their new house in Arlington, watching through the window as Daniel tried to assemble a swing set in the backyard. He'd been at it for 2 hours. The instructions were spread across the grass. He was scowling at a pile of bolts, like they'd personally offended him. She smiled. Couldn't help it. The house was a compromise, not too big, not too small. 3 bedrooms, a yard with actual grass, a neighborhood where people said hello when they passed on the sidewalk. The kind of place Emily never thought she'd live. Behind her, their daughter made a noise, somewhere between a laugh and a shriek. Emily turned. Nora was sitting in her high chair, Cheerios scattered across the tray, more in her hair than in her mouth. She was 10 months old, had Daniel's eyes, Emily's stubborn streak, and lungs that could wake the entire block when she wanted attention. You're a mess, Emily told her, wiping Cheerio dust off her chubby cheeks. Nora grinned, reached for Emily's hair. Yeah, I know. Everything's a toy to you. The back door opened. Daniel came in, hair sticking up, shirt stained with grass and sweat. He looked exhausted and happy. That swing set is trying to kill me, he announced. You've been saying that for an hour. Because it's true, the instructions are in Swedish or something. Who writes instructions in Swedish? It's probably just poorly translated. It's a conspiracy. He crossed to them, pressing a kiss to Emily's temple, then to Nora's head. How's my girl? Nora squealed, reached for him with sticky hands. She's perfect, and covered in breakfast. Emily handed him a wet cloth. Your turn. Daniel cleaned Nora's hands with exaggerated care while she tried to grab his nose. You know what? Forget the swing set. She doesn't need a swing set. We'll just take her to the park. You've already built half of it. That half can stay. I'm calling it modern art. Emily laughed. You're ridiculous. You love me anyway. Unfortunately, he grinned, kissed her properly this time. Nora protested the lack of attention by banging her hands on the tray. All right. Daniel lifted her out of the high chair. She immediately grabbed his shirt in both fists. Someone's needy today. She gets it from her father. I'm not needy. I'm affectionate. There's a difference. Emily started cleaning up the breakfast chaos, loading the dishwasher, wiping down counters, the kind of mundane routine that used to feel suffocating, but now just felt like life. Normal life. Real life. The kind she'd never let herself imagine. Later, while Nora napped upstairs, Emily and Daniel sat on the back porch with coffee. The half-assembled swing set stood in the yard like a sculpture of his frustration. The late afternoon sun was warm. A neighbor's dog barked. Someone was mowing their lawn 3 houses down. I got an email from Susan, Emily said. She wants to grab lunch next week. That's good, you should go. I know, I will. She took a sip of coffee. She asked if I was thinking about coming back to work. Daniel glanced at her. What did you say? I said maybe, eventually, when Nora's older. She paused. What do you think? I think you should do whatever you want. You know that. I know, but I'm asking anyway. He set his mug down. Honestly, I miss having you at the office, but I also know you're exactly where you want to be right now, and that's more important. Emily leaned against him. I do miss it sometimes. The work, feeling useful beyond diaper changes and nap schedules. You are useful. You're keeping a tiny human alive. That's pretty impressive. You help. I try, but you're better at it. She smiled. We're both figuring it out. Yeah, we are. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the afternoon stretch out. Nora would wake up soon. There would be dinner to make, bath time, the bedtime routine that sometimes worked and sometimes didn't, the normal chaos of having a baby. But for now, there was just this, the two of them, coffee going lukewarm, the breeze rustling through the trees. You know what's weird? Emily said. What? A year and a half ago, I couldn't imagine this, any of this, and now I can't imagine anything else. Daniel squeezed her hand. You regret it? Any of it? Not for a second. She looked at him. You? Not even close. From upstairs, they heard Nora stirring. Little sounds over the baby monitor. She'd be fully awake in a minute, demanding attention, wanting to be held. I'll get her, Daniel said, standing. You sure? Yeah, you got breakfast duty. Fair's fair. Emily watched him go inside, heard his footsteps on the stairs, heard him talking softly to Nora through the monitor. Hey, sweetheart, good nap? Nora's response was a babble of sounds that didn't quite form words yet. Emily closed her eyes, let the sun warm her face, let herself feel grateful. For the house, for the family, for the life she'd built with someone who'd once been just her boss. Just a name on emails, just another person in the building. Now he was everything. They'd had to work for it, navigate the gossip, handle the awkward questions, make adjustments at work that weren't always easy. But they'd done it together, and they'd keep doing it one day at a time, one diaper at a time. One half-assembled swing set at a time. Emily opened her eyes, picked up her coffee, went inside to join her family. That night, after Nora was finally asleep, after 3 stories, 2 songs, and one minor meltdown about the wrong pajamas, Emily and Daniel collapsed on the couch. Is it always going to be this exhausting? Emily asked. Probably. Daniel pulled her closer. But it gets easier, I think. That's what people say anyway. People lie, constantly. She laughed, rested her head on his shoulder. The TV was on, but neither of them were watching, just background noise to fill the silence. We should probably finish that swing set tomorrow, and Daniel said. Probably. Or we could hire someone. That feels like cheating. I'm okay with cheating. You're not allowed to quit. You're like 60% done. That's generous, I'd say 40%. Either way, you started it. You're finishing it. He groaned. You're mean. You love me anyway. Unfortunately. He turned his head, kissed her hair. Actually, not unfortunately, very fortunately, Emily smiled. Let herself sink into the moment, into the warmth, into the certainty that despite all the chaos and exhaustion and half-assembled swing sets, this was exactly where she was supposed to be. Upstairs, Nora stirred, made a small sound over the monitor, then settled again. They both held their breath, waiting to see if she'd wake up. She didn't. We got lucky, Daniel whispered. This time, I'll take it. Outside, the streetlight flickered on. A car passed, the neighborhood settling into evening. And in their living room, with the TV casting shadows and the baby monitor crackling softly, and everything imperfect and beautiful all at once, Emily felt it again. That feeling from months ago, in her cramped apartment, when everything was still uncertain and terrifying. Hope. Only now it wasn't hope for something that might happen. It was hope for what they were building, together, every day. The TV switched to a commercial. The radiator in the hallway started up with its familiar clank. Neither of them moved. Final message. Sometimes love doesn't announce itself with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it grows quietly, in the spaces between words, in late nights and shared coffee. In the way someone sees you, really sees you, when you thought you were invisible. It's not always easy. It's not always neat. There will be complications, questions, moments when you wonder if you're making the biggest mistake of your life. But love isn't about perfection. It's about choice. Choosing to stay. Choosing to build something real. Choosing someone even when it would be easier to walk away. Because in the end, the best love stories aren't the ones that make sense on paper. They're the ones that make sense in the quiet moments, when the world stops performing, when it's just two people deciding that together is better than alone. What about you? Have you ever felt something real grow from something unexpected? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your participation means a lot to the channel, and I'd love to hear your story. If you felt the tension, the hope, and the quiet moments between Emily and Daniel, show some love with a like and hit subscribe. More heartfelt stories are coming your way.